All right, everyone, welcome. My name is Mike Sanders. I'm here from NTI at Home, and I'm joined here today with Milly Velez, the founder of the Fibromyalgia Society of America, and we're going to be talking about how to leverage returning to work alongside managing fibromyalgia. So at this point, I just want to introduce one of our speakers, Milly Velez. Milly Velez is the founder and executive director of the Fibromyalgia Care Society of America, with a mission to provide education, care, and supportive services to individuals living with fibromyalgia, their communities, and the community at large. The Fibromyalgia Care Society of America also works to educate medical providers on the appropriate diagnosis, care, and treatment of those living with fibromyalgia. She is an advocate for justice and equality for marginalized individuals and a staunch supporter of LGBTQ rights. She is committed to bringing equality in care and is devoted to working hard to ensure equity in the workplace so that people living with fibromyalgia can maintain their careers and their dignity. As for myself, I'm the head of partnerships for NTI at Home, a nonprofit that helps individuals with disabilities and family caregivers back into the workplace. NTI at Home partners with Fortune 500 companies to provide work-at-home jobs to individuals with disabilities nationwide. As a TEDx speaker, I have presented workshops related to the job search, disability rights, DE&I initiatives, training and development, and how to achieve success in work-at-home positions. I'm also a founding member of both the Boston Inclusion Community and the Into the Streets program, increasing disability awareness throughout the United States. So welcome, Milly. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. I'm fine. I'm so happy to be here, Michael. This has been a vision of the FCSA for a very long time. If anyone that has been following us will see, it was on our website that we wanted to employ people and help with employment. And because of our limited resources, we didn't see ourselves getting here anytime soon. So when you and NTI at Home reached out to me, I right away was very excited and I signed up and I said, yes, definitely we should do this because we can get that support through NTI at Home. So thank you, and thank you NTI at Home for bringing this to the fibromyalgia community through us, through the FCSA.
Well, thank you for keeping an open mind and thinking about what partnership possibilities could exist out there to help out the people that you serve. So it means a lot to help serve your community and to help them provide different resources, whereas before they may not have had those. So we're going to do this a little bit differently. Instead of a straight up presentation, Milly and I discussed this for a little bit, and we said, you know what, Milly has fibromyalgia, and I thought it would be great to sit down and have a conversation with her and discuss, well, the back end of what it's like going through the process of having fibromyalgia, losing a position, gaining a new position, going through the whole life cycle of the job search. And I thought that would be a really great idea for the people who are involved, and how NTI at Home also solves some of the things that she went along within her journey. So with that being said, I figured I'd start off with the first question. And it is, before starting off with the Fibromyalgia Society of America, you were working. And can you tell me why you left the workforce?
Yeah, so I wasn't only working, I was heading a national organization that served the LGBT community. I was the director of operations. I was there since day one, since inception, which was dated back to 2002. 5 years later, in 2007, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And I say I was lucky to, 14 years later, up until actually 13 years later, because up until 2020, I was able to handle the demands of the job and manage the fibromyalgia, although there were, really bad days and there were really good days and there were times in between where I did have to take time off because of the fibromyalgia, but I always found a way to manage it for 13 years living with fibromyalgia. Fast forward to the pandemic. The pandemic came and it put an extra strain on the workforce. We were a 24, or they still are a 24-hour program. And, while all businesses were shutting down and sending their employees home, we couldn't shut down. We served homeless individuals. They needed a place to stay. I oversaw the operations, which also meant overseeing the HR. So I oversaw the staff, and there were staff concerns with coming into work and possibly coming back, back home being COVID positive. There were all the concerns of, checking temperatures of people, and what happens if a client comes in and they test positive. And then it was, we need hand sanitizer, and hand sanitizer was out of stock. And there were just so many demands on me personally during the pandemic that it took a toll on my overactive nervous system. And I couldn't do it. I had to choose me or my job, and I chose me. And
Yeah.
and it took an emotional toll. I was there since 2002. I was there 18 plus years, and although I chose me, there was that emotional impact of, that's my work family. That wasn't just my job or my career. These are the people I saw every single day for 18 plus years. So
A lot of people that must have been extremely hard on you to make that transition. And a lot of people who are diagnosed, they stick in with it and they don't tell their employer, or there's a little bit of stigma behind it. Wouldn't you agree about telling the employer, telling your coworkers, whether or not they are going to help you through this journey, and whether or not they could accommodate you?
yeah,
And I think a lot of people feel the same way.
yeah, definitely. There is that stigma. Because like I said, this to me was my work family. I was very open with my diagnosis early on, from day one. When I got diagnosed, I did speak about it. I'm actually being featured in a documentary film called Invisible, the film, and they came and they filmed at the job, at the workplace, because I asked for permission. I was very open about it, and everyone knew. But being in charge of the HR department, there were people that came into my office that were struggling, that I was having these conversations with, and that it took time for me to even pull out from them to tell me, I'm a person living with fibromyalgia, and here I am, very open about, I'm a person living with fibromyalgia, to everyone. And even employees that were at other levels and other departments couldn't even say that to me.
Yeah, and it must have been an extreme change for you as well. Like so many people that you serve within your community, they're experiencing things like chronic pain, fatigue, sleep disturbances, emotional distress like you did. And to be able to balance these with your physical capabilities, it takes a toll on your everyday life. And when those same type of symptoms, as it was seen in Milly's case, and I'm sure that there's a few people who could agree with it, it comes back to impact you within the workplace as well. And it really does make a difference on whether or not those individuals who are within your workforce are educated enough or open enough to be able to support you on moving on forward. And right now, roughly about 54% of individuals with fibromyalgia are unemployed. 10% or 11% are on sick leave. 23%, they're on permanent work disability. And they all have profound symptoms that influence their ability to work further. And also those environmental factors have an impact on their work lives. So as you experienced right there. Now, how long did it take you to come back into the workforce?
I was out of work for 8 months. I initially thought, I'm going to take 3 months off and I'm going to go back to work. And as I started looking for work and looking at, what employers were looking for or were requiring in job descriptions, I started to remember experiences that I had in the other employment place, and I was like, I'm not ready to do that yet. Or I also was worried about not being ready to do that again, but I also was worried about, how is the stress going to show up now in a different company that doesn't know me, because I was at this other place for 18 plus years, and because I was very vocal for 13 plus years about my fibromyalgia, people were more understanding and compassionate to what I was going through. But I was worried about, going to a new employer. Are they going to be as compassionate? Are they going to understand? Am I going to have, performance issues? I never had performance issues. All my career, I've always had, meets expectations, exceeds expectations. I'm like, am I now going to go into the workforce and have performance issues? And all those things scared me. So I was like, I need to take more time and think about what I can do, what I want to do, and what that looks like, and then look for a job, and not just look for a job because financially I needed to. It was more of,
Yeah.
I need to look for a job that I'm going to be happy with and that I can actually do. So it took me longer than I had initially expected to go back.
And I think a lot of people who we work with on our side at NTI at Home experience some of the same things as they go on through, because everybody's needs are different out there when it comes down to financial attributes, or whether or not they're looking for benefits, or whether they want to go back into the workplace because they want to be social again. And everybody has a different need out there. But also too, one of the things that I wanted to mention was at NTI at Home, when we're working with individuals out there with disabilities, we notice that it takes a little bit for people to come on back. One, so that way they can manage their disability, and two, there's like a fear factor associated with it, kind of like what you were describing before, where they may not feel comfortable coming on back, or feel like they could do it, or not know if they can manage their disability along with that, but then they're able to move on forward. And it takes a little bit, but with an organization like NTI at Home, we guide people back into the workplace, and you're also working with employers who help as well. So most of the employer partners that we work with have disabilities, know someone in their life with a disability. They have a loved one who has one, and they get it. They understand. So when you're transitioning back, it's more of a comfortable environment where you could ask for the accommodations. You could be open about things. You don't have to discuss why there's an 8-month gap in your resume. So those are some of the things that make people feel comfortable out there. Now, you mentioned that you mentioned salary isn't the only thing, but what were some of the other factors that made you decide to come back to work again?
To come back,
Yeah.
well, obviously, aside from the financial demands, a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
A sense of belonging, like you said, friends and being around other people. And it's obviously different because now we're in a virtual world. I'm doing work from home, but I get to meet you, I get to meet other people as well. It's not I get to have a routine and get up in the morning and say, this is what I'm going to do today. I keep a schedule. But I will also say I'm defiant, and I had to prove something to myself. I had to prove that I can come back after this, and I can come back and do this again, but do it my way.
Yeah. And a lot of people, they do it their way, and they have different needs out there and different wants going on forward. Like we have one person who's working with us right now who has fibromyalgia. She has been in her position for 12 years, and it's a seasonal position. It's an 8-month seasonal position that she's doing, and it comes back every year. And she looks forward to it because of that sense of belonging. And she looks forward. It's almost like when kids go to school, they have the summer off, and then they all get back together again. They're excited to see each other. Same thing, same exact thing. People are excited to come back to work again and be a part. And I have this slide right over here that talks about the multiple attributes. It doesn't have to apply to everyone out there, but there's so many things. It could be financial, it could be to meet new people, it could be to support your family. There's a whole gamut of elements out there that people are looking for in order to come back into the workplace and be a part of life again. So, with that being said, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the transitioning back. Now, when you were looking out there, were you looking for part-time jobs, full-time jobs? What were you looking for?
I looked at everything. I looked at part-time, I looked at full-time, I looked at consulting, and then I came back to the FCSA.
Nice.
So I think that it's important to note that although the FCSA was founded in 2015, the FCSA was always a volunteer project for me, and having so much on my plate at home and with work, there was all these things that I wanted to bring to the community. Obviously, one of them being, jobs, and it was hard to do it because I was limited in time. And I luckily we had been doing some really good fundraising that was put on hold during the pandemic, and the board of directors voted to bring me on full-time with this plan to grow the organization. And I was like, what are better situation for me than to do something that I do love, my passion, my vision, my dream, make it come true, to help people with fibromyalgia, especially being a person with fibromyalgia that can go out and speak on it from a personal standpoint. And then bring also my background, which is social services. I always worked in the social service field for 20 plus years. So be able to bring that also to the fibromyalgia community, and this time, get a little paycheck for it, for doing it. And I was like, this is a win-win situation for me. Why am I looking to do something else and continue doing the FCSA, on the back end? This is a way to actually bring more to the fibromyalgia community, and at the same time, it's employment for me. But I did look at everything. I looked at part-time jobs, I looked at full-time, and I did look at consultant work as well.
Yeah, and I think it's about not only the jobs that exist out there. It depends on what your symptoms are for fibromyalgia, and I think that differs for your whole entire community from person to person. I know that some people are limited to part-time jobs. I know some people want to go for the gusto and go for a full-time job. So there's a way to balance that out and understand what your disability is. Would you mind if I showed one of my slides to talk about the types of opportunities that we have here at NTI at Home?
No, go right ahead. I think that'll be great.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right. So, the jobs that we have at NTI at Home, it kind of reflects onto what Milly was going through in her search out there. And NTI at Home serves as a really good stepping stone and moving forward in the future. And as Milly said, she wanted to have a position out there that involves like her social work skills. She wanted to have something that correlates to her beliefs out there, And one of the nice things that we have at NTI at Home is we have opportunities like that, where there's all different kinds of industries out there that come to NTI, want to work with us. And we have part-time, full-time, seasonal positions out there. In the case of some people who are out there, we have split shifts. So some people, to manage their disability, they may have 4 hours early in the morning and then 4 hours in the evening, or they may have 2 hours here and then 3 hours here if they're working a part-time role. It really depends on what you could do and what you could bring to the table. So it's a good option that's out there. Now, if you knew we existed beforehand, would you have investigated this a little bit further, Millie?
Yes, yes, I would
Okay.
have. I mean, I love what you just said about the flexibility, because that is something that has been major for me, is being able to have that flexibility in my schedule, where I can say, you know what, I'm gonna block out these hours and I'm gonna work in the morning this day, and in the evening, and then in the afternoon I'm gonna do this. So I will give an example, like just last week I actually, was working in the morning, and then I went to the mall in the afternoon, and then I came home and I worked in the evening. And it was like, just going out to the mall and walking around and doing that retail therapy, and then coming back to work. I actually am more productive um
Mhm.
in that way as well. And I shared this with you earlier. I'm very into dance therapy. So sometimes, I'll be working on the computer and I'm like, it's time for a dance break. And I couldn't do that at the office. So having that flexibility of being able, I'm home and I can just put on music and dance and then come back also makes me more productive. It makes me more happy.
Yeah.
And I'm able to do that because of the flexibility. So when you said that, I lit up, because I was like, I definitely would have looked into this if I would have known this when I was looking for a job. It's because the flexibility was something that was big for me. The
I mean, it's
flexibility and the commute. And the commute was the other thing.
absolutely. Offline before this webinar, Millie and I were discussing the horrendous commutes both of us used to have. And they range from 2 to 4 hours going into work every day. And now it's nice. I still set up a commute on purpose, even though I work from home. I'll still set up a routine where I get ready, go get my coffee, um, go for a quick ride around the neighborhood or walk, and just kind of really get my mind in a space of thinking about what I'm going to do throughout the workday. So that's what I do, kind of like how Millie does her dance routines during the midday, which is a good
Right.
thing. Get your body pumping,
Mhm.
similar to doing a walk and thinking about the things that you have to do after the fact. So it's a good way to get energy going throughout the day, especially if you're working from home like we are now. Um, it's a good way to break up the monotony of what you're doing, and also to balance what you do on an everyday basis, like in terms of your symptoms and your family life as well. Um, I was just thinking about this too. Most of the people who are diagnosed with fibromyalgia, 60% of those individuals still stay with their positions after their first diagnosis. But a year afterwards, only 40% end up staying with their positions. And most are either laid off or they decide to do what Millie did and said, hey, I'm going to focus on my own health. And until I feel like I can manage fibromyalgia in my own life. And the program that we have at NTI at Home, it helps you so that way you're not in that 40% category, you're not in that 60% category. You're able to manage your own life, have your own dance party, and be able to come back into the workplace again. So that's a good thing. um so let's see what else. We wanted to talk about accommodations too for coming back into the workplace. I know I don't have it on this slide, but Millie and I were discussing it the other day, and we talked about how to make that possible out there. And when we talk about the types of jobs in NTI, like I mentioned before, you're working with employers who understand disability. You're working with an organization who does. So when you're working with the recruiters on the other side, they're not going to ask you about your disability or anything like that. If you need to make an accommodation, you could have a conversation with that with the NTI employees, and we could work that out for you. So there's always a good way to help transition that and make that happen. So let's see, let me ask you this, Millie. Why did you want to partner with NTI at Home when you first connected with us? And I know you alluded a little bit before about that.
I did allude a little to it. So aside from it was in our plan from the beginning, the reason why it was part of our strategic vision in the beginning was because early in my advocacy, fibromyalgia advocacy, I kept hearing two major things that were really hurting the community. And the stories that I kept hearing were loss of marriage, loss of careers. Yeah. My family doesn't understand me, my husband doesn't understand me, and my employer doesn't understand me, or my wife doesn't understand me, and my employer doesn't understand me. And you know, there were so many people that told me these stories of these vibrant careers and how they were heading, like, you know, these big name corporations, and how they lost their careers. And I have these people standing in front of me telling me these stories, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, but I don't understand why, because I saw a person that can still do that. And I know how it affected people, or I heard how it affected people emotionally. And that's why, you know, that's why they were sharing that part with me was, you know, the fibromyalgia, you know, made me lose my job, or I lost my career because of fibromyalgia. And I kept thinking, well, you know, how can we get their careers back, or how can we get that sense of belonging, those friends, get people back into the workforce, and because they're still fully capable of doing that. They just may need to do it a little differently. Especially with my HR background, I was like, they can do it differently. Mm-hmm. But what I kept seeing was the employers didn't understand the fibromyalgia, and even to the point where the doctors, because again, being on the HR side of employment, you know, I was the one that had to actually approve accommodations for my employer. And, you know, people are bringing these letters to me and I'm reading them. And in some cases, because I did have people with fibromyalgia coming, I was like guiding them through, like, no, like, you're not going to be able to fulfill your job with what your doctor is saying. Like, you need to go back, take this letter back and tell them that this is what you need. But even the doctors don't know what to ask for to accommodate the people. So when I saw that NTI brought all of that to the table, where it's like, not only are you bringing the training and the jobs, but you're also helping people with the HR process and the accommodation process, I was like, this is the perfect fit for us, because this is what we need. This is what the community needs.
Yeah, it really does sound like, you know, people need to have those accommodations in order to move forward in life, and to have jobs where people are understanding, and to be able to work from home, so that way they can balance their symptoms along with what is going on in the workplace, and have a perfect merger out there. So whereas you may not have the same job that you did before, at least you have a really good job moving on forward, which is fantastic.
I mean, going back to the whole commuting piece, I mean, I shared this with you when we were speaking, is like, you know, there were days that just getting, by the time I got to work, it was like, I'm exhausted, because just just the whole process of getting up, getting out, going through rush hour, going through walking up the stairs, walking several blocks, getting to the office. And it was like, here's the beginning of my day, and I'm exhausted. And now it's like, I wake up in the morning, I have my routine, I go get my coffee, and sometimes it just plop my laptop on my lap while I'm in bed, and I'm doing work, and I don't have to spend all this time commuting and all this energy commuting, where the energy goes into the work.
Yep. Kill off the chaos. That's
Yes,
basically
yes,
what you're doing.
exactly.
And, because stress is one of the things that invokes a lot of the symptoms associated with this. And it depends where you live. But some of the commutes that I've been through have been horrendous. Working in New York City at one point, working in Boston, your horn on your car kind of wears out after a while, and you just say enough's enough already. So this might have been a good thing, but this has been around, like our program has been around for about 25 years now. So people have been able to work from home for a long period of time. And, when I take a look at this, I kind of say, people talk about the new norm. Well, it's a new norm for them, not for us. We've been doing this the whole entire time. One of the other things that you briefly mentioned about partnering with NTI was the training aspect and the guidance. Would you mind if I showed them what our process is? And then that way they could have a pretty good idea of like what you mean when you say that.
Yes,
So,
please do. Please.
all right, I will share this. There we go. So just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea about what NTI does when people come to the door, we wanted to create an environment where people are guided to come back into the workplace, and they have a comfortable area where they feel like they can come on back again. So we try to make it really easy for people to do, and also tailored to the person who's coming through our door. Just like fibromyalgia, where everyone has different symptoms of different variables, everyone has different needs when it comes back to coming back into the workplace. So, just to start off with, you register for NTI at Home. A real easy process. You go to ntiathome.org, and it's an application to be a part of the program. It only takes about 2-3 minutes to complete, 3 to 4 minutes, maybe pushing it a little bit, definitely about 2 to 3. And then once you're finished with that, you receive an email, and we do video assessments. So it's nothing to be scared of. What we decided to do was work with a company called HireView. And we do these video recordings, and people could just take their cell phone and sit down and record themselves, like in their living room, answering a couple of questions that we ask them. The only person who's going to see that is one NTI employee. So that way they can have a discussion with you. And you're probably wondering, why do they want to do these video assessments, right? And essentially what we want to do is gauge your skill set when it comes down to what training you need in order for you to be successful. So you're in step 3, you're going to sit down with a job coach and have a conversation with them about what is the recommended training, what's the path of going on forward. A job coach is assigned to every single person who comes to NTI, and that's your job coach. So if you have problems going through the training aspect, or applying for a different position, or even if after you get hired, say 4 months down the road, you have a conflict with an employee, or need an accommodation, you could actually come back to NTI, have a conversation with your job coach, and they're going to steer you in the right direction. So they'll either provide you with HR guidance, they'll be able to provide you with talk tracks, conversations to go along with it. So the job coach is very critical here at NTI at Home. And once you have your job coach, they're going to suggest to you a couple of different training programs, and it ranges anywhere. You could take instructor-led training for the job search, mock interviews, writing your resume. We've also consulted with all of our partners, our employment partners, and had conversations with them of what are the skills that are lacking. So we've taken those conversations and converted them into courses. So we have very specialized Windows courses that will teach you how to work within the environments that they have and be successful with it. So that way, when you go on to the job day one, you're ahead of the rest of the class, which is great. Also, too, we have an RCCA class, which is retail call center training. It teaches you everything about how to work from home, how to set up your environment, how to manipulate your computer in order to be successful, everything that you would need in order to move forward in life. All the trainings for free, which is great. And we have amazing instructors for each one of those classes who are well versed in each one of the areas. So they're going to provide you the knowledge and skills that you need in order to succeed. And picture it like graduation. So when you graduate from college, what do you do next? You either go into grad school or you look for a job. And here at NTI, you look for a job. So what you do is you have access to our employer partners, so that way you could apply to different positions out there throughout the country. And all these positions are work at home positions. You'll be able to select positions that fit your needs out there. And after you find a position that you're interested in applying to, you could interview with an NTI recruiter who's going to see if you're a right fit for the position. And they work along with you too. So if the position isn't a good fit, they'll make a suggestion. Hey, have you ever considered this other position out there? And they'll give you guidance in order for you to succeed. So with these positions out there, they're everything from you name it. So roadside assistance, if you're calling up, say someone is calling up because they're stranded on the side of the road, you might be the person who's helping them out. If a person is having trouble with their taxes, you could be the person who's helping them resolve that problem. If a doctor needs help with pharmaceutical information, so that way they're prescribing the right information to someone that they're assisting, you may be the person who's assisting that doctor. So there's a really wide combination of different jobs that exist out there. And one of the things that I really like about it too is I like to do this analogy. I kind of picture it like a supermarket line. There's one line that's open up and all you have is milk and ice cream in your hands. And you want to just get through the checkout and get to your car and go home. But there's 6 carts in front of you, completely packed. You know that you're not leaving until that ice cream becomes a complete liquid. So all of a sudden, another register, a cashier, points to you and says, come over here. And would you still stay in that line with the 6 full carts, or would you go over to the empty line? Picture it like that in the process of applying for jobs at NTI. The only people who you're competing against is other individuals with disabilities. These jobs are not for the public. They're for NTI specific candidates who come through our program. And you're able to apply these positions without going through all the elements of, if you were to go through Indeed or one of the other job boards out there, you would have to compete with the rest of the United States who's applying for this position. You would have to go through their recruiters, have a level of stigmatism associated with it because of they don't know that you have a disability through NTI. They know that you do. A lot of the times they will the companies will rely on NTI to do all the assessments with you, all the interview questions, and guide you to go on forward and make the decision whether or not an organization should hire you. And at that point, they will probably do a welcome call with you or a welcome video screening with you, just to say, congratulations, you have the job. And at that point, you move on forward. But like I said, you always have that job coach throughout the whole entire process, so that way you could be guided through into the future. So that's what I wanted to tell you on that.
That all sounds so amazing.
Yeah, and we've helped out over 100,000 people over the course of 25 years on a yearly basis. Well, now after the pandemic, we have a ton of new jobs that are coming on through. I hear about new ones that are coming through every single solitary week, especially with the pandemic happening. A lot of organizations are realizing that you could do this work from home. You don't have to be in the office to do it. So a lot of variety is coming through. We're seeing that out there. And it's helping people make better decisions to come back in the workplace. And it doesn't always mean that this is the be all end all position either. Some people, they'll come to us, they'll get a job through an organization. 6 months later, they get promoted or they move into laterally a different position. And they keep on moving up through the company. So it's your chance to showcase your knowledge, skills, and abilities. Yeah. So I think that kind of wraps it up at this point. Mm-hmm. And is there anything else that you'd like to add, Millie?
No, there isn't. I just was wondering if anyone has any questions. I know we have the chat feature, but I haven't seen anyone use it. And I know we've covered a lot. So I was wondering if anyone out there has any specific questions for either one of us, or about the program, or any fears that they have about coming back to work, or remote work that we can possibly help them with.
Or any type of insight too. That's always helpful. What I'm doing is, hey, thank you, Brandy. Brandy just said, for the people who are on the phone, she says, thank you. This has been very informative. And, I just want to say thank you for letting us be a part of everything that's going on, and letting you learn about our program and telling you a little bit more about it.
Thank you.
I also just shared in chat the URL for ntihome.org in case you want to investigate it further and find out a little bit more about our program. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or any information that they'd like to add as well? Or any experiences about yourself coming back in the workforce, any type of struggles that you may have had?
This is an easy group.
This is an easy group. I like it.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Okay. So at this point, be an issue in the near future for me. And that's an important point too, Diane, is having the knowledge and the power to be able to make informed decisions later on down the line, and be able to control for your environment that you live in. Because if you didn't know about this program before, now you know about another tool that you could utilize in the future if you choose to. And Courtney just wrote down, I'm currently going through the process of obtaining reasonable accommodations at my work to be able to work remotely. with or fibromyalgia, it seems impossible to work in an office. And I think you are not alone in that whole entire case, Courtney. I think a lot of people are experiencing the same type of situation out there when it comes to managing fibromyalgia and the symptoms that are associated with it. So it's good that you're able to connect, have the conversation with your workplace to be able to make that balance out there and move on forward. All right. And if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Milly or myself. More than happy to help you out on your journey and have a conversation with you so that way you can understand, or we can help you through your journey. Oh, Brandy just wrote to us too. What I'm hearing is that if you find something that you would like to do from home, NTI could help you with the training for that position. Well, what NTI does is we offer positions for at-home work. So you could come directly into NTI at Home and apply for different work at home jobs throughout NTI. And within NTI, in order to prepare you for these positions, we provide to you the training, we provide to you the guidance along with it, so that way you can move on forward. All this is free services. And I think I just answered that for you, but there's no charge on the services. We're paid for through a mixture of the clients who come and work, or are the clients who are looking to work with us, as well as the Social Security Administration. So it's split ways that we're paid in the future. And also there was a question about where Milly works. And just to answer Evan's question, Milly is the executive director for the Fibromyalgia Care Society of America. And you could go and connect with her at fibro.org if you'd like to.
Yes, thank you.
There we go. All right. Any other questions or comments? Let's see what we got. All right. And if you do have questions in the future, we're more than happy to answer any of those questions whatsoever. You can feel free to follow us as we post every single solitary day, both through the social channels on fibro.org, as well as the social channels that are connected on ntiathome.org. You'll be able to find out what the latest and greatest of what we're hiring for and where we want to go with our organization. We're always looking to improve it and improve the experiences of the people who come through and want to be a part. All right. So with that being said, I'll let you guys go. And I'd like to thank you for being a part of this and attending and contributing, telling us your story. And I hope to hear from every single one of you in the future. All right.
Thanks,
well, thank
everyone.
you, okay.
Bye.